Howdy y'all, name's Clover. Welcome back to another Time Yaps video. This series is still kind of shapeless, but I think there's some charm to that. This is my third video in, and I've really enjoyed sitting down and just yapping about whatever comes to mind. It sort of makes me think that you don't really need a reason or something to talk about really when you start. You just kind of press the button and go. And you just find it like halfway down the road, and it's nice. It's a really nice feeling. A little bit of this kind of been feeling a bit like a diary of sorts too. I've also had a few comments of folks talking about it's sort of like a podcast with a little bit of stuff going on in the background, like rigging time lapse. So that's nice. It's nice to know that some of y'all are just kind of vibing with me and listen to me yap and stuff. And I love reading y'all's comments. Even if I don't respond all the time, I do read every single one of them. I appreciate it so much. The rig we're working on here, it was a super fun one. It belongs to Wild Spice. They reached out and shared a little preview of the art. And I don't know, I saw it and immediately thought, yep, I want to rig that. There's something about the crayon style lines that just clicked for me. I love when a model's got that kind of sketchy charm to them, you know, like it just is begging to be that sort of wobbly, wiggly line art. And I don't really get to make line boil effects very often, so anytime I see art like this, I'm immediately like grabbing it up and ready to go. So yeah, I messaged back and I was like, let me get that PSD file so we can get started, and I just jumped straight into it. Started rigging, didn't even hesitate, didn't think, no thoughts about it, just boom. And actually when I opened up the file, there was a lot more toggles than I expected to, but I wasn't even mad because they were cute. There's like an egg and like a tablet and boba and some light sticks and stuff, like a bunch of stuff I ain't done yet before. So I was like, man, this is gonna be so much fun. I'm so excited to work on it. I really did not stop to think hard about nothing else until I did go to record my first work in progress. And yeah, that's kind of when I noticed a little something. I ain't gonna get too thick into the weeds about it. Honestly, I don't think it'd do anyone good, but it kind of did knock the wind out of me when I got to this point. Just kind of one of those moments you realize there's more going on than you thought maybe when you started. And it got me thinking, I guess, about rumors in general. How it feels to realize something you thought maybe had settled down is still out there shaping how folks see you. It's a strange feeling, you know, finding out something from months ago is still echoing off of walls you didn't even know was standing there. And the hardest part is knowing most folks will never ask you if it's true. They just hear a version that sounds right to them and they carry it around like it's a fact. And I don't think folks do that kind of thing out of cruelty most of the time. You know, not really anyway. I think sometimes someone hears something and then they pass along without thinking too hard on it or wondering if they got the whole thing or if they're just listening to one piece of the story. You know, it just kind of happens. But the more I sit with that, it gets kind of heavy, you know, because you're standing there trying to keep up with doing what you love, and it feels like folks are looking right through you. Like they're seeing a version of you that don't really match who you are at all, and they don't really ever stop to check it either. And it's pretty wild how fast folks will believe the first thing they hear. Like it don't even take much, just one comment in the right place or the wrong place, I guess. And suddenly there's this whole story being told up about you without you even really realizing it. And folks, man, yeah, they eat that up. You know, not because they're trying to be cruel most of the time. No, I really don't think folks are like that. You know, I think folks really want to feel like they understand something, like they're in the loop. You know, it's just kind of, we're social creatures. We want to, you know, feel like we understand everything that's going on around us. And it's uncomfortable sitting in the not knowing, right? It's much easier to just go, oh, well, I heard this, and then tuck it away like it's the truth. And also it helps folks sort the world out a little faster too, maybe. But I don't know, it is pretty dangerous, I think, because the more a story gets passed around, the less anyone checks ever know if it's true or not. And if it's just one side of a thing, or if it's maybe a little more complicated than what fits in like a tweet or DM or a headline. Or even, I don't know, some folks write out a whole big page of stuff, and even then they don't have all the facts, or it's like heavily opinion based, and it's just, I don't know, it's very complicated. Folks are complicated. And I think sometimes folks forget there's a real person behind whatever it is they're talking about. Like a person who maybe didn't even get a chance to speak or didn't know that they needed to yet. Or, by the time they figure out someone's been telling stories about them, stories already been told. It's passed around, it's polished, it's twisted up to fit whatever version makes the most sense to whoever heard it. And if it sounds like something that person would believe, that's kind of all it takes. It don't matter if it is true or if it's got all the parts to it. It just has to sound true enough, like close enough to something they've seen before or whatever it is. And now suddenly folks are not along saying things like, yeah, kind of always figured they'd do that, when things ain't as black and white as it's all been laid out like that. I don't know. It's a weird feeling, realizing you've been cast in a story that you never signed up for. You're just going about your day, trying to get your work done, and then all of a sudden there's this shadow floating around, someone else's idea of who you are, and no matter what you say, it don't reach them the same way the rumor did, because, I think that rumors, they're easier to believe. They don't really require any conversation or context or messiness, And yeah, I get it. Folks like things that are simple. It's so much easier when you can look at something and go, okay, good guy, bad guy. This is right, this is wrong, this is black, this is white, this is villain, this is victim. But I don't know, man. Life really just, it ain't ever that easy, is it? It never that tidy and clean. More often than not, things don't always go bad on purpose, I think. Like, most of the time when folks get hurt, it ain't because someone sat down and plotted out how to do some sort of evil harm to them. It's just that folks are messy. We trip up, we bump into each other, we make a call that felt fine in the moment. Maybe we even think we're being kind, right? And then later we realize someone else saw it from a whole different angle, right? And then suddenly we're dealing with this fallout of something we didn't even see going wrong until it happened, or even when it was happening. You don't find out till after the fact. You're like, oh man, I didn't even see it that way. That's when it starts eating at you too, because it's not that just that feeling of you being misunderstood. It's like part of you starts wondering if they have a point. Like you start going back over every little choice, trying to figure out where it all spun sideways, and you're like replaying this stuff back in your head over and over, like the conversations and projects and vibes and whatever it is. Just like, should I have done more research? Was I too short with this person? Did I not explain myself enough? And it don't matter how good your intentions were, because now you're just like stuck staring down at a version of yourself that folks believe in. And you ain't even sure most of the time how it's been built. And you ain't even sure if, is it true or not yourself? And you're the one they're talking about. It's just, I don't know, it's such a strange pressure, feeling like you got to defend your whole character over something that might have started from, a simple stumble. And like I said, I don't think it comes from cruelty most of the time. Sometimes folks really do feel hurt. They're trying to make sense of it. But instead of talking it through with you, it just kind of gets passed around. And I don't know, it starts as a screenshot here or comment there. And now what could have been a conversation is turning into a reputation. And even if you want to clear things up, the rumor is already way more interesting than the truth could ever be. It's kind of lonely when you think about it too. When folks latch on to a version of you and stop looking any further. Like, they were handed one piece, and decided that was the whole puzzle. Never mind the rest of what you've lived. And you're still here, still trying to carry the full weight of who you are, while everyone else is walking around speaking like they got the full story. I don't know. You don't want to stay silent, but you're scared that you saying anything else is going to make it worse. Then you end up in this strange spot, there's this weird feeling of if I'm too quiet, I look guilty. If I'm too honest, I look defensive. And this whole while, you've got this outline of you that's been drawn in someone else's chalk. And I think what really gets to me is how easy it is to start shrinking yourself without even realizing it neither. Like, just because you're trying not to hurt someone, you're trying not to mess up again, and you get so worried about like rubbing someone the wrong way or speaking on something without knowing if there's no other meanings to it, that you start moving different, like talking softer and thinking twice before you do stuff. And after a while, that kind of living just wears you down and makes it so hard to create or connect or like to even show up without second guessing every little thing that you do and every like part of yourself. And it ain't about being blameless neither. That ain't what I'm getting at. I never claim to be perfect. I say the wrong things. I fumble about, but it hurts when the space around you don't let you learn. Like, when the second you get something wrong, that's it. You're boxed in, you're tagged, you're done. And it don't matter how much you've grown since then, because some folks already made up their mind based on a moment that happened in a less informed version of yourself. I don't know, I think there ought to be more space for folks to be messy sometimes. Not in like a reckless sort of sense or anything like that. I just mean like space to not get it right all the time. Because folks are more than the worst things they've ever done, right? Like the stumbles, the mistakes, the mess-ups. We're made up of a lot of things, and most of them don't even show up in screenshots or quick stories. And if everyone's walking around scared to slip up, scared to say the wrong thing or to ask a dumb question or whatever it is, right, then we're building this room full of folks too nervous to be real with each other. And I just don't sit right with me, man. And I've been sitting with this feeling for a while now. And I keep coming back to this idea that most stories ain't ever as simple as how they're first told. Not in my experience, anyway. It's real easy to think you got the whole picture when all you've really seen is the frame that someone handed to you. And sometimes I guess it does feel better to believe the first version than it does to like slow down and sit with the mess of it, especially when you're tired and you burnt out and you already got all these things you got to do and so on and so forth. So, I mean, most of the time we just are like, oh, okay, yeah, thanks, I guess, and we just take it at face value. I mean, I've done it. I think we've all done it. I've heard stuff about folks before and let myself go, yeah, that tracks. That sounds about right. Mostly because it lined up with whatever I already had in my head, or, I don't really stop to wonder where it came from or who it might have passed through on its way to me, right? And, sometime later, I'll hear the rest of it or see something from a different angle and, it'll kind of hit me like that guilt, where you realize maybe you might have added a little weight to something that was already hurting someone, or, well, not on purpose, just without thinking, because I think we all do that sometimes, just trying to make sense of things as they come. And when a story feels familiar, it's easy to believe it without slowing down to ask if it's really true or not. But honestly, most of the time, I think the truth's just sitting somewhere in the middle, kind of just being overlooked. A lot of times the truth don't really fight to be heard, similar to like rumors do, right? It just is sort of there lingering somewhere between what actually happened and what folks decided it meant, and by the time anybody slows down enough to look for it, it's already tangled up in old feelings and secondhand versions of the story, and no one's real sure where it even started. I don't know, maybe part of the reason all this hurts so bad is because most of us are trying to do right in the world. And it's a world that don't give us much room to mess up gracefully. We're all carrying around little stacks of fears and regrets and lessons we learned along the way. And when someone else bumps into us, sometimes we react from them old bruises instead of seeing the person right in front of us. I think that's how good folks end up hurting each other without even meaning to. It's just this chain reaction of folks trying to protect each other, And I guess that's kind of why I'm still here, right? Why I'm still rigging and still posting, even when part of me just wanted to walk away from it all. Not because I've got anything to prove, really, and not because I think I've got it all sorted out by any means. I really love what I'm doing. And it feels wrong letting someone else's opinion of me be the reason I quit. There's something real tender about sitting with a model like this, where the work itself is sweet and the commissioner's been an absolute joy to talk with, but somewhere along the way, things, started to feel a little bit different than I expected. And I didn't go into this thinking there'd be any weight at all, right? Like, I'd never worked with this artist before, didn't know their name, and I only realized what was going on after I'd already begun sharing the process and went to give proper credit like I always do. And what I found, it really caught me off guard. It was one of those moments where your chest tightens up, not because you did something wrong just now, but because you're reminded that some folks still believe the worst in you, even after time has passed. You see just enough to know that it's connected to something that happened before, and suddenly you're carrying the weight of a version of yourself you don't even recognize, a version you've tried real hard to move past, and it stings because it's still hanging around and changing the shape of things you care about. All that aside, Wild Spice has been so warm and wonderful and patient through all of it. Neither of us could have known this would be wrapped up in anything like that. It's just one of those strange overlaps you don't really see coming. And for a little bit, I didn't even know if I should keep going. Thought maybe it'd be easier to just kind of walk away from it, just leave it unfinished and try again on something else that didn't have that same ache attached to it. But I really couldn't bring myself to do it. For one, because I care about the work, right? But also because I care about finishing things that matter. And this mattered, not just to Wild Spice, but to me too. I think I'm just hanging on to the parts of this that still feel good. Because, there is still joy in this for me. Even after everything that's happened, even on the difficult days, I still love seeing something come to life. I like those little moments where things are clicking just right. And I guess I still want to believe that most folks ain't trying to hurt nobody. That sometimes they get caught up in something before they even stop to think it through. I don't know that is always the case, but I genuinely hope it is. And if it ain't, well, I still want to be someone who slows down and thinks it through. Someone who tries to meet things with softness, even when it's easier not to. I don't think I'll ever really want to stop being better at this either. At rigging, of course, but like everything. Being here, talking through stuff, showing up even when it's real uncomfortable. I don't think I've ever felt like I had it all figured out, and I probably never will. But I still want to try, I still want to improve and grow as a person. Even if folks say things, or if they don't believe I can change or grow or mean well, there's not much I can do about that. That's on them. But I know where I'm headed. No matter what it is, I know where I'm going, and it's up. Improving, growing, doing better, doing right by the folks around me. I guess I'm just trying to stay soft in a place that don't always make that easy. It's real easy to forget sometimes, that there's actual folks out here behind all the posts and the usernames and so on and so forth. Folks with stuff that got stuff going on, right? Folks who maybe mess up or misunderstand things, but still got like a whole life going on behind the scenes that we don't even know about, right? I don't ever want to lose sight of that. Even when I'm hurting, especially when I'm hurting, like I can't forget that we all got stuff going on. And I find it so hard to believe that folks want to live in a cold space. So it don't sit right with me to think that everything that happens is so intentional, right? I think most of us are just real tired. And when you're tired, it's easy to forget that the person on the other side of the screen is actually just as tired as you are. That maybe they didn't mean what they said the way that it came out. Or, maybe they did, but they're still carrying more than you can see, right? And maybe they're learning just the same as you are. I don't know. I just think we're all kind of tripping over each other with our arms too full to catch ourselves. And we're trying not to drop all this stuff that we're carrying around with us, and we're trying not to fall apart in front of anyone. All of us want to look good and put together and so on and so forth. I don't know, maybe I'm a bit naive, I guess. But I think there's something real strong in keeping our hearts open anyway. And choosing not to give up on folks, even when folks are giving up on you. It ain't an easy thing to sit there and decide and try to do anyways, but it's the only way I know how to keep going without getting bitter. I never want to be that way. I never want to be bitter and cruel or wish harm on anyone. Anyways, I can tell I'm running up on time here, so I should probably find a way to wrap this up. And if you're still here, thanks for hanging out this long. I know I yapped a whole bunch. I tend to do that quite a lot. But I know I can't be the only one feeling this way, right? Like you're trying to grow, but folks have already made their mind up about you, or like you're still holding on to empathy even when it feels like everyone else put theirs down like a long time ago. I don't know. But if any of this stirred something up inside you, I'd love to hear what's on your mind too, because I do my best to at least like and stuff on all the comments I get. I'm not always able to respond to all of them, but I do love reading all y'all stories and your comments and what y'all got going on. But anyways, without further ado, thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.